Snow crunched softly beneath the shoes of strangers passing by the cafe window, while inside, warm daylight spilled across polished wooden tables decorated with tiny Christmas candles and green pine wreaths. But none of that warmth reached Celine's heart. She sat frozen in her chair, staring at the half-finished cup of coffee in front of her, while the man across from her awkwardly grabbed his coat. Only 20 minutes earlier, he had smiled confidently when she arrived. Then she had gently explained through sign language and written words on her phone that she was deaf. Everything changed after that. His smile disappeared. His eyes drifted around the room, embarrassed, impatient, uncomfortable. Moments later, he stood up with a fake apology, claiming he had forgotten an urgent meeting, leaving Celine alone in the middle of the crowded Christmas cafe while couples laughed around her in the bright afternoon sunlight. The humiliation burned deep inside her chest, not because this was the first time someone had walked away, but because she had allowed herself to hope this time might be different. If you believe kindness and second chances still exist in this world, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Life Spark Stories. Because stories like this remind us that even broken moments can lead to unexpected miracles. Celine lowered her eyes, pretending not to notice the sympathetic stares from nearby tables. At 31 years old, she had grown used to isolation. Losing her hearing after a childhood illness had not only silenced the world around her, it had slowly distanced people from her life. Friends stopped inviting her to gatherings because conversations became too difficult. Relationships faded when patience disappeared. Even her own family struggled sometimes to understand the loneliness she carried every single day. Still, she worked hard to build a peaceful life as a children's book illustrator, spending most afternoons sketching colorful worlds filled with happiness she secretly wished existed for her too. Outside the cafe windows, cheerful holiday shoppers crossed the snow-covered sidewalks carrying bright gift bags under the pale winter sun. Inside, Celine quietly gathered her gloves, preparing to leave before tears betrayed her composure. But just as she stood up, movement near the corner of her table caught her attention. Two little girls, no older than 7, stood side by side wearing matching red coats, knitted white hats, and identical curious smiles. Their cheeks were pink from the cold daylight outside, and both clutched tiny paper snowflakes in their mitten-covered hands. What stopped Celine's breath completely was what happened next. The girls raised their hands carefully and signed, "Can we join you?" Celine blinked in shock. For a moment she thought she imagined it, but the twins repeated the sign slowly, patiently, with nervous excitement glowing in their eyes. Emotion crashed over her so suddenly that she nearly forgot to respond. No stranger had ever approached her like this before, especially not children. The twins introduced themselves through imperfect but heartfelt signing as Ivy and Marlowe. Their movements were clumsy, but beautiful. Celine learned they had been watching her from another table while waiting for their father to return with hot chocolate. Their mother had been deaf too, and before she passed away 2 years earlier, she taught the girls sign language so their family would always stay connected. Since then, the twins practiced every single day, because they never wanted anyone to feel invisible the way their mother once had. Celine felt tears sting her eyes again, but this time for an entirely different reason. Minutes later, the girls' father returned carrying a tray of drinks, only to freeze in confusion seeing his daughters happily chatting in sign language with a stranger. His name was Adrian Vale, a tired but kind-hearted architect whose face carried the exhaustion of grief and single parenthood. After the girls excitedly explained everything, embarrassment crossed his face as he apologized for interrupting. But Celine noticed something unusual about him. Unlike others, he did not look uncomfortable. He did not pity her. Instead, he sat down carefully and began signing too. Not perfectly, not smoothly, but enough. The rest of the afternoon unfolded like something from the very Christmas stories Celine used to illustrate. Sunlight poured through the cafe windows while snow drifted gently outside. The twins laughed while teaching Selene their favorite holiday signs. Adrian admitted he was still learning because after losing his wife, he promised himself he would never stop using the language that once held his family together. For the first time in years, Selene felt included in a conversation instead of trapped outside it. What she did not realize was that the twins had intentionally approached her because they saw the sadness on her face. Children often notice heartbreak adults pretend to hide. As the afternoon faded, Adrian invited Selene to join them at the city Christmas market nearby. Normally, fear would have made her refuse. Fear of awkwardness, fear of disappointment, fear of being left behind again. But something about the warmth in those girls' eyes made her say yes. Together they walked beneath strings of sparkling holiday lights hanging across daytime market streets, filled with music Selene could not hear, but somehow still felt through the joy surrounding her. The twins pulled her excitedly from stall to stall while Adrian stayed beside her, never once making her feel different. Slowly, the heavy loneliness she had carried for years began melting away beneath the bright winter sky. Before the story ends, take a moment to comment where you're watching from and share one act of kindness that changed your life forever. Weeks later, on Christmas morning, Selene stood in her apartment holding a handmade card delivered by Ivy and Marlowe. Inside was a drawing of the four of them together beneath a giant Christmas tree. At the bottom, written in shaky handwriting, were words that made tears stream down her face. "Thank you for staying." For years, Selene believed silence had separated her from the world forever. But sometimes, healing does not arrive through grand miracles. Sometimes it arrives through two small girls brave enough to walk toward a stranger sitting alone. And if this story touched your heart even a little, please like, share, and subscribe to Life Spark Stories. Because your support helps keep emotional stories like this alive for people who need them most.